Hey friends, I just wanted to talk to you today for a moment about the myth about socialization with homeschooling. What I'm talking about is that thing that anybody who's ever talked to anybody else about homeschooling who's not a homeschool parent knows. And that is, but how are you going to socialize your kids? Let me just back up and tell you about why I decided to homeschool, and maybe it'll make this point for me. I, like I've mentioned before, used to be, I'm a recovering opera singer, you see. And during my time as an opera singer, I spent a great many years, wonderful, wonderful years, teaching voice and piano and guitar. And I taught mainstream school students, I taught private school students, mainstream meaning public school students, private school students of all types. You know, there are a lot of different types of private schools, and I taught homeschool students. And the homeschoolers were the most social. And what I mean is that a lot of times the students who came from other school systems, it's almost like they had this innate fear about them. Not of me by any means. I always got along beautifully with my students, and they were great. And we could talk, we could work together, we could always get along with no problem, regardless of background. But what I found was that the homeschool students, they were at a different type of level. So I wouldn't even say that it's like the same plane of comparison, because the way that they interacted with me was so much more holistic, meaning they were respectful. They were actually extremely respectful, but at the same time, they talked to me more like I was an equal, not with any disrespect, but like they could talk to me. You know, they weren't afraid of saying anything that I would be upset with. And so basically the point being is that a lot of the kids who were in public or private school were hesitant because of the background that they had experienced. And this isn't across the board. Of course, there were some that were exceptions to this, but the vast majority fell into this pattern. And so I always knew, and at the time, I was told by a doctor I couldn't even have kids. So even still, I knew that if I did, that I would homeschool. Number one, because it just felt like that's what I should do. Like, I should definitely homeschool my kids. I'm definitely the best option, I believed then and I believe now. And secondly, I just saw the difference. And the thing that I want to kind of bring home is that kids aren't better socialized because they're in groups with other kids their age. In my experience, it's the opposite, that the kids who might have been more social had they not been put in those positions are taught to clam up and sit in a corner sometimes. Not all the time, clearly, but sometimes. The ones with the opinions that I'd like to hear are usually the ones that would be the quietest in school. And what's great about homeschool, what makes it not a problem with socialization, is that kids feel free to express themselves and they feel free to be social creatures, not hammered down by the society that school creates. And I am not saying anything down about school in this, or the teachers or the administration. If I were going to say anything about any of those items, I would go on a case-by-case basis, because I know you can't make blanket statements about those things. However, systematically, as a society, what we have created with schools does not create better socialization for the most part. And I'm sure there are exceptions out there, and if you know of one, please recognize it here, in the comments, because it deserves to be recognized, because it is very rare that a group education experience goes without trauma. Speaking from my own experience and the experiences of hundreds of kids that I taught in music lessons who would tell me everything about their school experiences. Honestly, that's probably why I decided to homeschool. Now that I think about it, it was those experiences that the kids told me where I was like, oh no, we're not doing that. And it was very honest experiences. These were kids who felt like they had an adult that they could talk to and be honest and tell me how they felt. And music lessons are very personal anyway, because you're either singing your soul or you're playing, and I feel like I got an honest representation of the experiences that they had. And so again, nothing against schools, but everything for homeschool is what I'm saying.